Good morning, good lunchtime, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us. Myself and Paul Kelly, we are back. It's 2024. As Paul, I'm still one of Paul's witticisms here. It's a new year, but there are some old and familiar faces. Me and Paul, obviously in preview mode. We are here previewing, actually, I suppose, for British and world interest, world light heavyweight title fight that's taking place between Callum Smith and Artur Beterbiev over in Quebec City on the 13th of January. Paul, you're a big Callum Smith fan. I am not a hater, but I've been critical possibly of some of the hype surrounding Callum Smith. But this is the chance, obviously, for him to get going and to really make a name, especially up at light heavyweight. Obviously, we've seen him prevail, obviously, at super middleweight. Obviously winning the Super Series, but then also obviously coming unstuck against Canelo. But we are here with another chance for Callum Smith to assert himself as or to fulfil his potential, should I say? Paul, obviously, Happy New Year, but it's not going to remain happy because I'm going to have to throw in a couple of testers for you here. But coming to this fight, obviously on the 13th, Artur Beterbiev's been injured recently. Obviously, the fight was rescheduled. 38 years old. What I'm going to ask you really is, do you think Beterbiev is past his best? Do you think he's there for the taking? And before we come, I'm not going to come to predictions yet and to ask whether Callum Smith's that man. I just want to know whether you think Beterbiev's on the slide in any way. If anything you've seen in recent fights that would suggest that.
Thanks very much, mate, for that eloquent breakdown and introduction. And you know what? I love it now that we just go straight in with questions like that because as you've backed me up onto the ropes. You're piling the 8-10 punch combination, and I'm having to duck and weave. But I'm going to fight back and say, do you know what, mate? For me, Artur Beterbiev is past his best. I think some people will maybe say that as a bit. Well, some people might find it stupid that I've said that, given the fact that he's 19-0 with 19 knockouts. Like an absolute animal, won every single one of his fights by knockout. But there's a couple of reasons why I do say that. Um, I look at his last fight against Anthony Yard, and Yard had quite a lot of success against Artur Beterbiev. Yes, Yard is a really credible fighter in his own right, but I don't think he's as skilled and or as doesn't have the boxing IQ or ability as Callum Smith does. And Callum Smith's more seasoned and more of a the style that he possesses is just more. I think he's just a better boxer, really, is what I'm trying to say. And Yard, I mean, whether you agree with it or not, maybe because it was in the UK, but Yard was up on two of the three judges' scorecards against Beterbiev at the time of the stoppage. There were definitely signs there that Beterbiev didn't look as good as he maybe had previously done. I'm not taking away from the fact that some of his wins against like Callum Johnson, you got the Vodstick win as well, Joe Smith Jr., Marcus Burns, beating literally everyone in the division, bar potentially Dmitry Bivol, which we hope is next for the winner of this. But yeah, I think he is slightly past his best, mate. To give that you a long and long-winded answer there, to a very short and simple question. Yeah, I think that he is past his best, and this could potentially, without going into predictions, it could potentially be perfect timing for Callum Smith.
Yeah, you know what? I don't disagree with what you're saying actually. Like it pains me to say it, but I actually think there were signs in that NC Yard fight that he was taking not Callum Smith, sorry, that Beterbiev was taking punches, quite a few punches from other Yard, from Anthony Yard, sorry, that you wouldn't expect. And I think style wise it was quite surprising. And I actually also do agree with you. I think Smith versus Yard, I'd have Callum Smith winning that fight. I think also with the attributes he does have and the sort of ring IQ that he does have as well, I actually think he's a tougher challenge for Beterbiev in that way than Anthony Yard was. Even though Anthony Yard's obviously been in with more seasoned fighters than Callum Smith, I think you'd have to agree up at light heavy. So I think this could, sadly for me, and sadly on maybe when we come to the predictions, be a potential banana skin for Beterbiev. And we don't know obviously that injury that he's had as well, what that's like, how that's affected him. Again, another year older. Like you say, 38 can't necessarily go on forever. So I am concerned that this could be, unfortunately, a shrewd bit of matchmaking from the lads over in Brentwood. But talking of those lads in Brentwood, Eddie Hearn has, as you suggested, that is talking about, I've seen him back and forth, different people on Twitter talking about the fight with Bivol after this. And what I really want to ask you, really for both men, really, so whoever wins in this, Callum Smith, Beterbiev, and give us a sort of short summary on how you think either of those would rate against Bivol, who obviously last time out we saw comprehensively outbox Lyndon Arthur, obviously on the supercard that took place in Jeddah.
Yeah, mate, as you mentioned, Dave Reckoning that just happened in Saudi. Yeah, Bivol was one of the superstar names on the card, beating Lyndon Arthur arguably every round. But for me, no, do you know what? I have him as the number one light heavyweight in the world, Dmitry Bivol. But as one sided as that fight was against Lyndon Arthur, I was actually a little underwhelmed. I don't know if that sounds silly or not, but I'm thinking like, you know, if why I know Bivol's not known as a huge puncher, but surely, and all due respect to Lyndon Arthur, he did really well to see the final bell and everything. But like you gotta be dealing with Lyndon Arthur with relative ease and stopping him, in my opinion. Yeah, it's fine, go 4, 5, 6 rounds, but you need to pull the trigger and get him out of there. I think Bivol kind of just like maybe he's just like win by any means necessary because he's so good. Like he just obliterated Arthur on like one nearly every second of the fight. But maybe he doesn't have that killer instinct that the likes of Beterbiev and Callum Smith does. However, I still do make him a favourite against either of those men. If Beterbiev is to beat Smith, I could see Bivol outpointing Beterbiev. Quite honest, to be quite honest with you, I make the Callum Smith fight a lot more difficult. And just again stylistically, because yeah, Berterbiev's a big puncher and could maybe switch Bivol's lights out at any moment. We don't know how he would take a big shot. He hasn't really had to much. But I think that Callum Smith again, as I said, is just he's not. I'm not saying Beterbiev is a one trick pony, but I think that Callum Smith has more strings to his bow, perhaps. Although he might not have shown it. I might sound stupid if he might get obliterated by Beterbiev, but yeah, in short, mate, I do. I make Bivol a favourite against both Kirby and Smith, regardless of who wins on January 13th. What about yourself?
Mate, I totally agree with you. We're getting off on a harmonious note here, which we may end at predictions. But I do also agree with you. I think Bivol again kind of does enough, doesn't he, against the likes of Lyndon Arthur, won every single second of every round though. And I think by the time he fights Beterbiev will be obviously older again. I just think I can see him outpointing him. I can also see him, even though Callum Smith's carrying power and obviously he's big at that weight still as well. I still think Bivol's got too much, frankly. I don't think he'll stop him, but I think he'd outpoint both of them, frankly, fairly wide, fairly convincingly. But we're not talking about Bivol, we're talking about Beterbiev versus Smith, and we're at prediction time, Paul. Now, Paul Kelly, long time you've been saying, that Callum Smith deserves more respect and deserves a shot, and he will prove to the world when he gets that shot that he is the man, the talent that everyone's been talking about at Matchroom and elsewhere. Prediction time, Paul Kelly. How does this fight go? Who wins and how?
Well, we're going to get the undisputed fight for all of the marbles at light heavyweight in 2024, but it's not going to be Dmitry Bivol against Artur Beterbiev. It's going to be Dmitry Bivol against Callum Smith. Callum Smith's going to stop Artur Beterbiev on January 13th in between rounds 6, 7, 8. I genuinely do see him stopping Artur Beterbiev. And you know what? Like a lot of people have said, like, yeah, he's really powerful and stuff. But see his left hook, the Callum Smith left hook. How many men has that knocked over and stopped? Do you know what I mean? Never known one man to have such a good shot, and yet still continuously, his opponents just don't seem to be able to see it or deal with it. And I could see him landing just maybe not a one, not lights out kind of knockout, but landing a left hook as Beterbiev maybe throws a backhand and just landing the left hook right in the whiskers, wobbling Beterbiev, and then we know Callum Smith, when he gets his man hurt, he's up there as one of the best finishers in world boxing in any division. So yeah, mate, two-time, two-weight world champion. He's going to become unified champion here, win the WBC, IBF, and WBO belts before then fighting Dmitry Bivol, hopefully in mid 2024. But yeah, mate, I see Callum Smith winning this via stoppage. As I said, maybe just into the second half of the fight. But yeah, the inactivity does worry me a little bit. But you know what? Stuff that. We're going Callum Smith. We're going knockout, baby.
You know what, Paul? We're 8 minutes in, and the harmony is over, baby. We come to prediction time finally. You know what? I'm going to throw a curveball in there. I'm going to say I think Beterbiev will win, but Beterbiev at 19 KOs in his 19-0 record. I don't actually think he's going to stop Callum Smith in this fight. I think it's going to be Beterbiev on points. I can see Callum Smith not even necessarily losing that wider decision, somewhere around 8-4. I think Beterbiev's activity might trouble Smith in the similar kind of way that, not in the same way he's going to get on his chest like Ryder did, but those sort of Ryder Canelo kind of combination of those sort of styles. I think I can see Beterbiev just sort of punching Callum Smith essentially, and then Callum Smith essentially just kind of retreating, if that makes sense, into kind of survival mode to a certain degree, but actually having enough, frankly, to see the end of the fight. So I think I'm going to go Beterbiev points in Quebec City. So we have got the disagreement, but guys, as always, Let us know in the comments who you agree or disagree with, whether you think Beterbiev will prevail, whether you think Callum Smith will prevail. Also, let us know how you think both men would fare against Dmitry Bivol, and even, I suppose, the method of the fight and the victory, how it's going to be obtained. Paul, as always, thank you very much for joining me. 2024, we are, we've got obviously other videos we've done. We've done Ahara Davis versus Ismael Barroso. Feel free, guys, to go and check that on the channel. We are back. We are live. Paul Kelly, thank you very much for joining me. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.